In a B2C world, the concept of buying something you saw on social media is not new. From product recommendations to first impressions from brands, the impact of social media on consumers is well documented. However, I came across a recent statistic on Sprout Social that showed that more consumers report finding the perfect product by seeing a targeted ad. It's about 49% of people surveyed over an organic post by a brand, which came to about 40%. So does this idea of organic marketing and building relationships still worth pursuing, especially in a B2B world, or is there a need for a pivot? I'm hoping our guest will help clarify things for us. Our guest is Jevon Wooden. Jevon, you're a dynamic business growth strategist, speaker, author, podcast host, and Bronze Star recipient. You're very passionate about leadership, business strategy, effective communication, marketing technology, but perhaps more importantly, helping motivated individuals and businesses achieve their goals. You've earned a master's degree in cybersecurity and an MBA as well. And really, you're drawing on about 12 years of experience in the military to hone your expertise in all aspects of leadership and peak performance. You've been featured in top publications such as Entrepreneur, Fast Company, Founder, Forbes, and Verizon. I'm curious though, Jevon, was there a black incident that triggered your foray into what is now business strategy and leadership?
Yeah, it all ties together, right, Vinay? It's like your experiences. It's funny how it just takes you somewhere. Mine happened when I was in my last deployment, 2017. I was in Afghanistan and I was doing technology in the military. And I said, you know what, this is cool, but it's not serving the way I want to serve.
Mhm.
I initially found coaching in that. And what I realized when I started coaching, my company used to be called Live Not Load because we focus more on the personal development side. What I realized as I was coaching these individuals they were leaders of businesses, leaders of companies who needed the coaching most or wanted the coaching most, I should say.
Mm.
And the reason why is because there's this aspect of clarity that is often missing in the business world. A lot of my clients, as I was coaching them on the personal side, they say, you know what? You have this business background. Why can you just help me? Like, can you help me? Can you consult me versus just coach me? Tell me what to do. So we added the consulting component so we can serve a little more,
Mhm.
especially now. We're in an interesting age right now with you just mentioned ads. Ads are being hit hard right now with privacy laws and all that stuff being put in place. So we started focusing more on the organic side
Mhm.
of marketing, the content marketing, the brand development, all that stuff. And so I'm excited about this conversation today. But that's really how it came to play, man, over time.
Okay, right. And given your journey to date, what would you say would be your personal area of strength?
My personal area of strength, relationship building. I think everything that we do is tied on relationships. So networking and really delving in and diving in and building rapport will be my personal strength.
And in that area of strength, what would you say is something that businesses don't know but should?
About me?
No, in your personal area of strength, what is
Oh,
something
what
businesses
businesses don't know in that area? I think that people are so focused on that transaction
Mhm.
that they forget about the benefit of the long-term relationship. And I feel like that's what's been really missing, especially from a B2B side.
Mhm. And I would imagine there's a bit of a heart shift as well as perhaps mind shift required to come around to that way of thinking about investing in long-term relationships as well as the organic nature of marketing. I'm curious, how do you help them navigate that journey?
Absolutely. So there's a number of ways. Short answer, of course, is it depends. We know that's always the answer. But the first thing is looking at what has been done. A lot of us, we look at ad spend, we look at ROAS, our return on our
Mhm.
ad spend, and we're wondering what's going on there. We're like, oh, it's the creatives. Oh, our creatives aren't well enough. Buyers are actually, it's been shown that people are starting to get that fatigue. People are just scrolling past ads now. People aren't really stopping and looking. Things that they were looking for now are different. So what do? We go back and party like it's 1990 when it comes to marketing. Before all that ad stuff, right? We start picking up phones, we start shooting messages, we start having coffee, we start doing all these things that we used to do that people no longer do. And what that does is that creates that relationship. It creates us an advantage for us, right? When we
Mhm.
do start to do those things, because now people are saying, oh, I don't have to see this random person or random business online anymore. They're actually reaching out to me. They're actually showing me that I matter, that my dollar isn't the only thing that they're after, but they actually care about me as an individual, as a person. So that gives you this great leg up because now that you're in this person's face, not only are you considered, or not only are they aware of you, but they consider you to be the top answer to their problems, right? Because you've
Mhm.
taken the time to really understand where they're coming from, why it's a problem in the first place. You have more insight. So instead of just the demographics and psychographics, you're understanding it from an emotional perspective.
Certainly. You're advocating that we take a more personalized one-on-one approach. The issue there might be for some of our listeners that that sounds terrific, but it's very time consuming and perhaps slow. How do you weigh up the pressures of needing
Mhm.
to hit your goals and numbers versus doing it the way that you just suggested?
Yeah, so I would challenge them on the speed because what organic marketing is not is it's not just sitting back and waiting. So when you're running an ad, it's more of a passive way of doing things,
Mhm.
right? You don't really control who's coming into that pipeline, that funnel. It's just people clicking, they become leads, whether they're qualified or not. It takes a while to get it to
Mhm.
where you're getting the right people with those ads. With organic marketing, it's not just, hey, spray and pray. It's being more intentional. What I could do is I could still automate, right? Maybe I go on LinkedIn, maybe I know exactly who my target market is. And I say, for instance, I want to work with professional services CEOs. Then I can get something like a Walaxy or a LinkedIn Sales Navigator, something like that, and plan it out. So I'm still reaching out, still doing my organics, but I'm not spending ads, but I'm also
Okay.
still being more active. And then also a part of organic marketing is the content marketing. So I'm still shooting emails out, I'm still getting leads, but I'm doing it in a different way where it's not just me posting an ad and hoping people click. I'm being more intentional because everything I create is made for my target audience, one.
Mhm.
Then I can control where I'm putting that information, right? So instead of just running an ad and them hoping it's in the right frame and all this other stuff, I can look at the data and say, okay, people in my demographic, the people I want to work with, they are online at noon. So maybe I make a post and I schedule that post to go out every day at noon. And then once I get them on my lead magnet, now they're on my email marketing. Now I have them. Now I can send that out as much as I need to. I can run surveys to see what they want, what problems they're having. So organic marketing is actually better in my eyes because I have more control on how things are going, when things happen, and who I'm targeting.
Hmm. Brilliant. When we were talking previously, you mentioned OPP as a
Hmm.
key strategy. Could you elaborate
Absolutely.
on that?
Yeah, OPP, other people's platforms,
Yeah.
right? And this goes to us not just waiting and waiting by being passive, it
Mhm.
goes to being active. So other people's platforms could be what we're doing now. Podcasts is still one of the best things. I know we're hearing a lot about the Spotify's not spending as much money in it, but this is still a great place because people are traveling more. They're going back to the office, so they're listening to things
Mhm.
like this. So podcasts, getting on stages, speaking in front of your ideal clients, that is my favorite, is actually getting up on stage. And it doesn't have to be large. It could be at an association. It could be anything. Just get in front of your audience. You could create your own stage. I did a summit not too long ago where I got 25 people together and we just started talking about marketing and people purchased the tickets. Why? Because I did the research. I said, all right, this is what my target audience needs. So I'm going to bring these folks in. So you can create your own stages. The other thing I love to do is blogs. Blog posts is a great way to use OPP. If I can find a guest blog where or a guest magazine or something like that where my target audience is, and I write for them, they're going to start seeing me. They're going to be like, this person is everywhere I am. How are they doing this? And they're going to end up being more interested in me because they see they're adding value. They start to feel like they know me. They start to feel like I am answering the questions they need with the free content. Once they do that, they say, all right, if this is free, what do they give behind the paywall? What does he provide if I work with his
Mhm.
services? Right. So that's really how this works. It's not about the one and done. It's about increasing the lifetime value of that client and warming up prospects before you even know you warming them up. So that's really what OPP is all about.
I was wondering if you could break down building your own stage. What did that look like? How did you hone in on a particular segment
Mhm.
and invite people to this event that you conducted?
Absolutely. And that's a great question, Vinay. So building your own stage, it's a lot of upfront research, at least for me. I like to make sure that what I'm doing is actually not going to land on crickets.
Mhm.
So, so I did a lot of market research. I looked at what people were Googling, Google Trends, and asked the people and all that other stuff. I looked on a lot of those platforms to see what people were Googling relative to business. A
Mhm.
lot of people were looking at content marketing, they were looking at video marketing, ads, all these things. So I was like, okay, if I create a platform, what's the best way to do it? We could do it in person, but people still weren't traveling at that time, right?
Mm.
People were still holding up their dollars because let's face it, people are still recovering from COVID and a bunch of other economic factors came into play. So I looked at virtual. And when I looked at virtual, I said it's actually more cost effective because I don't have to pay any speakers. I can just say, hey, you can pre record your stuff. And it just allowed me to do it at a lower price point. So you have to think about all those things with your event. So you want to run surveys. I use social media and just posted like, hey, what is the number one problem you are facing in your business? And I gave them a couple of choices and then I listed the other. Always give a other option. That way
Mm.
you can get some other ideas, right? And then once I got I set it to where I wanted 100 answers across all platforms. So once I hit that 100, and that included my email. Then I said, all right, everyone had a theme. What was that theme? I grouped everything together and it came up to be marketing. So I created the $1 million marketing summit. And once I did that, I just created a checklist of everything that I needed. And then one key is I got a mentor, someone who ran an event before. I didn't do this in a
Right.
vacuum. So I ended up finding a mentor and they helped guide me through the process of making it a success. So I really focused on, once again, organic marketing. What I did was I had every speaker, I had 25, I had every speaker send an email out saying that they were speaking. I gave them the time, I gave them the script, I made it really easy. Created all the graphics for them, right? Because if I'm
Right.
asking someone to do, you want to make it easier for them. So remove all the friction. So if you're going to run an event like that, make sure you have all that stuff lined up. Create like a Google Drive or somewhere where it's easy for them to just reference it and pull it down. And then make it fun,
Mm.
right? You can make it by creating like a leaderboard, saying, hey, this is the top affiliate. This person has gotten this many leads in. This person had so many ticket sales, right? Make it fun. People like gamification. They like challenges. So that's one of the things I really did. And I did the same thing with attendees. So I gave them like a referral link and whenever they purchased a ticket, said, hey, this is your referral ticket. If you do X amount referrals, then you'll get a free one or you'll get an extra session with me,
Mhm.
whatever the case may be. You can get whatever freebies you want to give, but always make it fun and always look at how you can continue to add more value than what is perceived by the clients. Cause that's really the key. It's not about the value you think it is. It's about the perceived value of your end user.
I think that's a key point. I'm curious, what was the overall objective of running the event?
Yeah. So my objective for that one was actually leads. So I was looking to get
Right.
more leads on my email list. And you can have an objective of conversion. So you might sell during the conference. You could just be
Mhm.
looking at brand awareness. So there's a number of reasons to do it. And you just have to think about that and have that in the forefront of everything you're doing when you're running that event.
And if leads was the objective, certainly the event is an attractive reason to subscribe to your email, newsletter, etc. Uh, how would you rate the quality, and now that you've had some time, of the leads as a result of that event, as opposed to things that you were doing beforehand?
Yeah, the lead quality was high, right? Because that's something I work with. I work
Mhm.
on marketing for a lot of businesses. So if people are going to a marketing summit, then I know they looking for some help or a leg up on that,
Right.
right? So I know that, okay, this is my ideal target
Mhm.
audience who's joining my list.
So I'm curious. Well, email tends to fill in people's inboxes almost on a daily basis. How do you ensure that you're doing this in an organic way, yet one that makes people want to open up your emails as they come in, however frequently you set them out?
Yeah, that's a great question. One is I'm not spamming people with 1,000 emails a week.
Mhm.
It's fine if you do that, but make sure it's adding value. And the thing I like to do is I do 80-20 rule. You don't have to follow it, but I believe in it solidly. So I'll do 80% value. I'm not selling anything, right? I may say, hey, check out this podcast or something like that, but I don't have a sales link in there. And then
Mhm.
20% promote. And people tend to like that. They're on my list for a reason. I didn't just bring them in. They said, hey, yes, let me sign up for a purpose. So for me, I always make sure it's a CTA of, hey, respond back to this. I'd love to hear from you. Or I'll shoot out like a survey or something like that. I'll do giveaways. And then
Mhm.
I'll switch up the layout of the email sometimes. So sometimes I'll add a GIF there. Sometimes I do a video. So I just make it where they're like, okay, what does this guy do next? What is happening? And then also the subject line is very key. I'm not
Mhm.
saying like spamming subject lines. I'm telling them bottom line up front, something I learned in the military, giving them exactly what they're going to get in there. Hey, you need to open this because this is the top 10 ways that you're going to generate revenue in your service based business or something like that. I'm not doing, oh my God, look at this or something like
Mhm.
that. I'm telling them what they're going to get. So those are some of the things I do. And then also when you look at like your open ratio stuff, look at who's opening it if you can. If your CRM or EMM will tell you, it'll tell you who's opening it. If there's a constant a group of
Mhm.
people that's opening it, maybe segment them out because they're the top engagers. So maybe segment them and send them some extra stuff and say, hey, starting this daily newsletter or something like that. What would you like to see? Whatever, because those are your rock star potential clients if they're not clients already. So pay attention to those numbers because they're telling you something. And
Mhm.
then people who maybe open it once every couple of months, ask them, maybe segment them out and say, hey, how frequently would you like to hear from me? So those are some of the tools I like to use. I like to use high segmentation because it
Mhm.
makes sure I'm not sending things out that people don't care about. So I give them the option. I survey them every once in a while just to make sure that I'm providing the value that they're looking for. And then I also give them the capability to engage with me at any point through a call to action.
Mhm. You talked about putting emphasis on the perceived value of what you're doing or offering to potential prospects and clients. I'm curious, who or what would you say has influenced your perspective on customer experience?
Yeah, for me, being a customer myself, it's the biggest thing that
Mhm.
influences it. And then with my clients, I do a lot of throughout the process of working with them, I'm always checking in to see what they feel like we could do better. And then at the end, in the offboarding process, I ask them, like, hey, what did you think about this? Where could we remove friction or what would you like to see more of? And I'm always having feedback. A feedback loop is super important. I don't so much worry. Sometimes I might check in what the competitor's doing, go through their process, whatever forms they're
Mhm.
using. I'll go through it just to see how they're doing things, just because I like to keep my ear to the street. I think that's very important to see what the market is doing. And then that informs some of the stuff I do to make sure I'm doing it at the level that my competitors are doing, actually doing it better. Right. So those are some of the things that informs me, but really being a client, being on that side of the customer journey has really made it so I want to make sure that my clients or my prospects are getting the best experience.
So when you're asking for feedback, how regularly do you do that?
Yeah, so my feedback, it depends. So I typically try to do it semi-annually. So I do it not
Okay.
semi-annually, I try to do it twice a year.
Mhm.
So when I do that, I'll do it use like a type form or video ask.
Mhm.
I like video ask because people see your face and they see that you smiling and they're more inclined to click the buttons. So I love those types of tools, but I'll do it twice at least.
Mm.
Recently, I did like more of a rebrand. So I asked them again. So that was like what my third time. So that's
Mhm.
typically how I so if there's like a big change, or if I'm want to run a course or create a new product or service, then I'll do another survey for that too. So it really depends on what's going on throughout the year, whether I do another one or not. But with my email list, they love it. People like to feel engaged. They don't want to just feel like it's a one way conversation.
Mhm.
They want to feel like they're being heard too.
Brilliant. In our previous conversation, you also talked about the five why framework for business success. Could you walk us through the key principles there?
Absolutely. So 5 why framework is something I use to guide my consulting.
Mhm.
And the first why is your yardstick, right? What is your goal? How do you know you're going to achieve that goal? And then why is it important? The why is what people typically don't use. They
Mhm.
typically don't go down deep enough because they're doing like surface level answers. So that's where the whole 5 why came from because I typically ask my clients 3 to 5 times why is it important for them before they get the answer, right? Out of that, oh, we need more money. No, why do you need more money? So that's what the first why is, the yardstick. Then the second why is yield. What levers are you going to pull within your business,
Mhm.
right, to make this happen? That's the how. Do we have the resources necessary? Do we need to get more people? Do we know what we're doing in the first place? So that's where you're going to get really specific about all those things. You're going to do that SWOT to make sure that
Mhm.
you're ready for this goal. The third one is YAR. How do we make it easier? How do we make business easier? How do we make achieving whatever goals we've set out for the year easier? And underneath that, I have my 3DA success formula where I talk about delegating tasks that need to get done, but not necessarily by you, deleting anything that really doesn't serve your mission, and then delaying any tasks that may need to get done or you want, but they don't need to be done right now. They're just a distraction, pushing them to another quarter or year, right? And then the automation, we all know what that is. Automating any repetitive tasks or automating anything where it could be a force multiplier for you. So, for instance, a check bot. We don't think about that as automation, but it really is. When someone goes to my website, I want them to feel like I'm still there, even if I'm not. And this is something that especially small to medium business owners can take advantage of if you don't have 24-hour operations. Because people are coming to your site at all times of the day, and you don't want to miss that sale just
Mhm.
because you didn't have a chat box like answering some questions that are asked day in and day out. So think about how you can make business easier to the other why that we're going to talk about is yoga. How do we make your business flexible, sustainable, and scalable? And sustainability, I'm not talking about climate change and all that stuff, right? I'm
Mhm.
talking about making it so you can outlast, right? Whatever's going on economically, all those political factors, those external factors that really damage business success. So we want to see what we can do to make sure that we're ready for everything, especially as we look to grow and scale our business.
Mhm.
And then the fifth why, that's the yearn. This is where that organic marketing really comes into play. It's getting people to evangelize your business for you. So people is the most important thing across any platform, any level, whether it's the
Mhm.
customer journey or the employee journey. So we want to make sure that both of those sides are really loving what we're doing. We want the employees to be posting about how awesome we are. We want the customers and clients to be talking about how great our products and services are. Because what that does is that lowers our marketing dollar that we need
Mhm.
to use. ROI goes way up because we don't have to spend dollars on that, right? When someone warms up the people for you and they say, go to this business, you've made it when that's
Mhm.
happening all the time, right? So you don't have to do as much outreach. You don't have to spend as much on those automations for outreach that I was talking about. So it just makes it so much easier. So that's the 5 why framework in a nutshell.
Uh, Terrific and very catchy framework. I'm sure it helps people remember it. But perhaps we could do a little bit of a deeper dive. Starting with the yardstick, how do you help clients define their goals and objectives? I remember you asking them why, but beyond that,
Yep.
what else would you use or do to help them define their goals?
So there are a number of ways. So one of the things I like to do is I like to reverse engineer stuff. I guess that's the cybersecurity person in me. So
Hmm.
I like to look at where they want to be.
Hmm.
And once they identify like where they want to be, get really clear, like visualize that. 3 years, I don't like to do super long because business moves at the speed of business. So we don't want to do something that's completely far fetched and then none of that's going to matter. So I like to do no more than 3 years. And then from those 3 years, we identify three things that we want to be known for in those 3 years. Then from that, we do another three. We take a step back. If we did 3 years, maybe we do a year, right? And
Hmm.
we're just going to keep doing that. And we're going to keep identifying these. And what we're doing is we're building really a tree of goals that's going to guide our decisions. So I like to say the 3 by 3 method. So once we do that, now we have our short term goals as well. We only have three. And then we break those out. And that's what's going to go in our project management tools. Hey, for this week, we want to generate 100 leads, right? Whatever it
Hmm.
is. And we're only doing three main ones. And then that's going to drive our daily tasks. What needs to get done by our people? When you talk about the functional businesses, what needs to be done by each department. And that's how we're going to get all that. So that's really where that yardstick piece comes in. And then when I talk about the how aspect of it, we're really going to ask, so what? Why does this goal matter? Why
Hmm.
does this task matter? We really scrutinize things from the point so we can get that clarity. And that's the benefit of all of this stuff is getting clarity and then boosting the confidence decisions we're making. So if we know exactly why we're going for a goal and then our people know why what they're doing matters.
Mhm.
What it does is it raises morale, it raises the productivity because people are clear on what they need to do. So now when we say, hey, we need to pivot a little bit, that wasn't going the way we wanted to because we set this metric. We know why we were doing it. We're getting off track. Let's figure out how we can get back on. It guides the whole ship. As we're talking about the sailboat metaphor here,
Mhm.
right? It guides where we're going. It guides the directions we're turning. And then what we can do is we can walk through different scenarios. If this happens, then what will we do? If this happens, then what will we do? And we can do that war room type of stuff. So it just helps make us way better, way more efficient, right? I believe that what sometimes we move too quickly and sometimes we need to just slow it down and get really clear on what happens and then come up with those what if scenarios. Because
Mhm.
this is dollars, right? This
Mhm.
is money we're talking about here. So we want to make sure that we're leveraging that money, leveraging our people in a way that's efficient and effective. So that first why is super, super important before we start moving on to the other stuff.
Certainly. Um, I'm curious, would you say that being purpose driven helps a long way in dealing with the whys that you ask, as well as the whole yardstick side of things?
Yeah, it can. Because sometimes what happens is when we're purpose driven
Mhm.
is we get clouded by the purpose, right? We start focusing on the hard work versus the revenue driven work.
Mhm.
Right? And they're two separate things sometimes. Right? So we really have to get clear. Is it the purpose that we're serving out of, that we're creating this product or service out of? Or are we actually making money off of it? Because we are business at the end
Mhm.
of the day. We need that to sustain. So it can, if you are guiding, if you're using those values to guide your direction. But if it's just driving you all the way and you're not really generating revenue, so maybe you have some losses in your bottom line that you're not looking at because
Mhm.
you want to continue to do that work, then I would say it might be time for a pivot.
Yeah. And when it comes to the yield aspect, how are you advising clients on leveraging their resources and creating the necessary leverage to achieve their goals?
Yeah, absolutely. This is a great piece because a lot of us don't know what assets we have.
Mhm.
So it's like an asset allocation exercise, right? We say, all right, we have these people. Like, what are their strengths? What are their weaknesses, right? Where should we be having them? Because, and this is where a lot of my client, they find out that they have some diamonds in the rough that they haven't been leveraging to the
Mhm.
fullest extent. And then also sometimes they find out that people aren't pulling their weight. They're just paying off for no reason, right? Because this is where the rubber meets the road. So we do this asset allocation exercise. We say, all right, this person is going to lead this person is going to do this person is going to do that, right? For instance, with people. And then we'll say, what processes do we have in place or are we missing? So we're going to look at that and we'll say, okay, we need to make sure we have some new SOPs on how we're going to deliver this product or service. Or we'll say, hey, we don't have the expertise. Maybe we need a consultant. Maybe we need to bring in a contract, et cetera. So it really helps you see the gaps. It's like a gap analysis as well. Helps
Mhm.
you see where the gaps are for you to accomplish this. And what that does is it allows you to place a solid time frame on when you believe you can hit that goal or get whatever you're trying to get done, instead of just blowing in the wind, right?
Yeah.
Because you know exactly what your capabilities are. And then we create this dashboard that shows all of that stuff by the end of that second why.
So really, you're building up the metrics and then using a dashboard to monitor it on a regular
Yep.
basis. Okay, brilliant. And then in terms of making the journey of accomplishing goals easier for your clients, are there certain insights that you could share?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So one of the things is, especially when we run smaller businesses and smaller by people, if we have less than about 30 people in our business, a lot of people really struggle with that because they want to handle everything.
Mhm.
Right. So we have to the delegation piece, no matter who it is tough. Because you're a CEO of a Fortune 500 company, sometimes it's tough to give things off and trust that they'll get done, right? So what I always tell people is the delegation is what's going to help us grow. That is the piece that's going to allow you to get where you're looking to go. If
Mhm.
you do not do that, you're going to fail just out of the gate. So what we want to do is we want to create ways where we can make sure that person that we delegated it to is on track. Be very clear about what you want them to do. There's software where you can walk them through if it's something that's repetitive or tedious. You can walk them through one way that you've done it through using Loom or something else where you're recording your screen to walk them through. And then what I like to do after I've done that is I like to take that and I like to create SOPs, right? We talk about technical writers and stuff like that. Now AI allows it to be a lot easier. So whatever you say, okay, we need these processes documented, have your expert of that process walk through it, recording themselves on how exactly they're doing that process, and then use something like an Otter or a Rev or something like that to transcribe it, right? And then you can download that transcription, have a human check over it, make sure it looks good and all that stuff. And then you can ratify that as your new SOP. And it
Mm,
makes it so much easier to create our documentation for our companies these days, right? Because that expert knows it. It's all up here. We need to get it so it
mhm,
becomes something that everyone can follow. And that's one of the easiest ways. It does not take long, but we sit here and make it a lot more difficult than we need to do. So that's one of the first things we talk about when delegation. And then the leading is we have these great ideas, fantastic ideas. We're like, oh, we can develop this product, we can do this, we can do that. But then we get away from our core offerings and what made us great in the first place. So we always have to ask ourselves, why are we making this? Why are we doing this? Why do we want a new product or service? Why are we changing the way we deliver what we have? Why are we making edits to our product? Whatever it is. That scrutiny is necessary when you talk about deleting things. Because a lot of times when you look at it and you run the numbers, it's going to lose you money over time versus being something that's going to add value to. So you really want to ask yourself, should we put this widget in place in the first place? Is it going to add or is it going to subtract? That's the delete piece. Delay, maybe you've gone through the numbers, you've done some type of a regression testing or whatever you want to run, right? To make sure that it's going to be a winner for you, or at least as best as you can. Maybe your R&D department has been fantastic and they've been hitting home runs out the park, but maybe you did that second Y, that yield, and you just don't have the resources right now because there's some other things that are prioritized above it. So you can delay it and you can say, all right, these projects that we have on our plate right now are
mhm,
going to take X amount of time. So let's put it out maybe right after that. That could be our next thing that we move up on our board of things to get done. And then automating, we talked about that already. Automating is not just about using technology, it's also about people as well. A form of automation is if I give someone a task and I have them perform it, maybe checking my email, right? That's actually a form of automation. It kind of ties
mm.
into the delegation too, but it's more of an automating thing because I'm no longer doing it. I know I don't have to check back. With delegation, you have to actually check on that person to make sure it's getting it done. With automation, you're not checking in to say, all right, let me make sure this is cool, right? You might have like them create a report or something like that versus me going and asking them. So those are the distinctions.
Certainly. Though with automation, you probably want to check in from time to ensure that
Oh,
it's working
absolutely. When I
correctly.
say that, like, I'm not just like each day,
Yeah,
I'm not like, oh, how did it
yeah,
go? Of
yeah,
course, with anything in business, you want to have some type of checks and balances,
yeah.
right? I don't have anything just running and assuming that it's going to be
Mhm,
ready. But one of the things that you can do for an automation is some type of alert, right? Like,
mhm,
for instance, my Zapier connection goes off. I get an alert to my email that says, hey, flag, and I marked it as important.
mhm,
So for a person, if I have them automating a task for me, maybe they deliver me a report that I get weekly that I can look at that gives me a dashboard of what's going on. And you're going to know, right? You're
mhm.
going to know if it's effective or not because you should have some type of metrics to check on everything. Right? If you don't have metrics, then how do you know if it's working?
Okay. And the yoga component, we talked about automations and getting people on board. Is there anything else that you would add to that element
Yeah,
of
yeah.
the
The
strategy?
fourth why, the yoga component. Yeah, absolutely. So scaling is something that you really have to be intentional about.
Mhm,
Like growing and scaling the business is super intentional. So when you talk about getting to that why, that flexibility, it's really about making sure you have the pieces in place to weather the storm. And that goes with like contingency, making sure you have some contingencies on hand, making sure that you're not just stopping your prospecting, for instance. Those types of things, making sure you're really building your business to be recession resistant, so to speak. I'm not going to say recession proof because I don't really believe it. So recession resistant. So it's really about making sure that I'm building my business where I don't have to be in it one, right? That's how you're making it as flexible as you can. I don't have to be in it. And then the second thing is making sure that When you're flexible, you can scale up and down as needed. Maybe I can remove some products or services that aren't doing right now and I can bring them back later. Or maybe some clients, I'm able to cut clients that aren't serving me because it's a two-way relationship. Oftentimes we think the client is always right. It's not the case, right? Getting rid of those bad clients so you can make
Mm.
room for some other premium clients, right? So those are some of the things you want to think about in that yoga scale, right? I don't want to have to take on work that I don't need to take on. And then I also want to make sure that my systems are key. My systems are in place that allows me to get to where I want to be and can take on whatever that brings. So
Mm.
again, when I that exercise, when I did the gap assessment and all that, I should know all of that stuff by why too. Right.
Mm.
I should know if I'm able to scale, if I'm flexible or not. There's a maturity matrix when it comes to that.
Certainly. When you say maturity matrix, are you just talking about how developed your systems are, or is there more to it?
So it's like a checklist. If I can say, okay, I'm at maturity model one, maybe I don't have the people in place that I need. Maybe I
Mhm.
don't have the SOPs yet. Maybe I don't have the resources I need to take on more
Okay.
clients, etc. I'm maturity model one. Maturity model four is I check off all the boxes. I can do anything. I'm Google level, right? I can work on whatever I want in my R&D department. It's not going to hurt me. So there's different
Mhm.
levels to that. What's possible for us.
Okay. Brilliant. Um, and I'm also curious about the yarn aspect to it. How do you help clients get their clients to evangelize for them?
Absolutely. So this is one of the key components is that feedback loop that I talked about.
Mm.
Getting that information from your clients to say, "Hey, we would love to see if you added a customer service department that was actually human."
Mhm.
Right? You got to listen to stuff like that because they're telling you what they want and why they're going to go to their competition if you don't.
Yeah.
And then when you do add something that they ask for, you can say, "Hey, I added this. We'd love if you test it out and give us a survey
Mhm.
or give us a review on Google, whatever it is." And one of the things that we love to do is automate that piece, right? If someone has just worked with me as part of my onboarding, offboarding
Mhm.
process, I should be asking for a review, asking for testimonials, asking for referrals, right? So you can automate that piece of your business. And that's a part of evangelism. If
Mhm.
someone's working, chances are they're going to say, I got you. I got three people over here. Or I can get on a call and say, hey, we know that we were able to do X for you, right? We provided whatever service or product for you. We know that you love it. What do you think? Would you be willing to give us three names? Would you be willing to make an email introduction? Whatever your process is for that, you should
Mhm.
have that documented and you should have that where whoever's coming on, your sales rep, marketing team, they should know how to do all of that stuff. Document that because it's super important. And then also for your employees, right? Again, you can gamify it for employees. Now, maybe they're not just getting you new clients, but maybe they're becoming your ambassadors on social media. Maybe when they
Mhm.
go to an event, they're like, "Hey, I'm representing Bright Mind Consulting Group. Thanks for providing this training for me, or thanks for supporting the whatever community I'm part of.
Mhm.
Having resource groups, right? All those things are ways to get people to want to evangelize your company, your brand."
With this approach, obviously a CRM is, I would say, a critical piece of the tech stack in order to make all of this work. Is that the case, or are you advocating for an independent kind of dashboard that you work with clients to create?
Oh, no, I don't advocate for that at all. I'd say use what you got,
Right.
right? You can anything I'm talking about here, you can create it in other software, right? If you're using like a project management software, you can create that dashboard yourself. Right? And then
Right.
with the CRM, you should have either a CRM where you have like your pipeline and you can track all that
Mhm.
stuff, or at least an email marketing management system, like an active campaign or something where you can at least shoot emails out and track who's opening it and have them join your lead group and all that other stuff, right? You got to
Mhm.
have something like these days because digital world, let's face it, that's where business is done these days. I definitely feel like you should do that and you should take the time to make sure you're organizing things to work with the flow of success for your business. They all most of them offer some level of customization. So I would say if you don't have the capabilities in-house, outsource it because
Mhm.
that's something you definitely want.
Now, as we were talking through the five why framework, a lot of the perspective was from the perspective of the business. I was wondering if you, as part of the overall process, advocate for playbooks, and I'm thinking more in terms of the customer and ensuring that
Absolutely.
they're able to actually find quick wins and then perhaps longer term wins through the process of your service or product that you're using.
Yeah, absolutely. So I provide more boutique services. So
Mhm.
playbooks work in a sense, but not on everything because every business is different. But there are certain things that allow for my intuition to come into play. So for instance, if I know someone is struggling with leads, I'm going to look at the same place every time. I'm going to have
Mhm.
that same process of where I'm looking at their gaps. So that's a playbook. So I definitely do have those, and I give clients certain playbooks for lead generation, for brand visibility exercises, and all that stuff, but it's really tailored to them. For
Mhm.
instance, with the branding, if I have a CEO who's more of a shy, more of a introvert type, I'm not going to go tell them like, hey, you need to go and speak on every podcast because maybe
Mhm.
that's not their thing. Maybe they want to write. So I got to find out what more about their character, more about their person is matters in
Mhm.
that sense. And then with brands, we tend to not think about brands as people, but I like to look at a brand as a person because a
Mhm.
brand has a voice, a brand has a message, a brand has a tone, right? All those things. And a brand dress is different. Like the colors, the logo, that's how we dress. There's DNA to a brand. Those types of things I like to make a more tailored approach. But I definitely believe that clients should have playbooks for repeatable things for sure.
Is there an aspect or two that we haven't quite looked at in terms of building out not just a framework for success that is organic in nature, that helps build relationships, but also very much focuses in on the customer experience side of things?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, I feel a lot of us, we don't, when I say looking at the relationship side,
Mhm.
and we talk about the customer standpoint. It's not like I gotta call every single customer one by one. That would be nice, but that would
Mhm.
be time consuming. But you should always listen to what's being said, right? See if you can find the jewels, even on a bad review, right?
Mhm.
Sometimes what they're saying has some legs to it. Let's not personalize everything and internalize everything. Sometimes we just gotta look like, is that somewhere we can make our process better or the experience better? So think about it from that perspective, that everything that's being said. And then also from a customer standpoint, look at who are your diamond customers. Like we all have them. We all have customers that just, they're at everything we do, they're representing, right? Level them up. If you have a Facebook group or some type of forum or something like that, make them like an ambassador, right? Put
Yeah.
little jewels next to them to say top contributor, stuff like that really helps from a customer standpoint. Cause again, they're the ones that you're in business for and they're going
Mhm.
to keep you in business. So we want to make sure that we're acknowledging those people who are going the extra mile to make sure that our business is at top of their mind and also at their friends and their families' minds. We want to go the extra mile for them. And it doesn't have to be something that costs money. And like I said, it can be putting a little icon next to their name to show that they're a top contributor or your best client or
Mhm.
whatever, or giving them FaceTime, helping them create user generated content to send. I like to do this like an email, like for my book. One of the things that I did was I did a contest and I had people send in holding their book, just send in something, hold their book, or they
Right.
could do a video about the book. Right. And then I would use that and post it on my socials to say, hey, on your kingdom, check out whatever this client said. And I tagged them. And
Mhm.
people love stuff like that because they're like, "Oh, I'm posted on this company's social media,
Mhm.
right? This is neat." So you can do things like that and just get them involved. And that user generated content is not only good for them, but it's good for you because it's not
Mhm.
coming from your mouth; it's coming from someone else's who has used your product or service and who loved it. So that's what I would recommend brands do more of.
And that's an interesting idea as well. Jevon, would be your parting advice to listeners with regards to building relationships and the overall customer experience?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say one, have that feedback loop that I was talking about. Make sure there's a way for people to tell you their thoughts. Two is have a way that people feel like you actually care,
Mhm.
right? And that's well, I just gave a couple of ways using their content, right? If they tag you, having a certain hashtag or something like that, creating contests and giveaways for people who created the best 10-second video, whatever it is, make it fun. Like we got to put the fun back into business,
Mhm.
man. Like
Mhm.
we're too buttoned up, too tight. Let's loosen
Right.
up, unbutton that top button, take the tie off, and let's have fun. I don't care what your brand is, if you're a serious professional brand, you can have fun too. So I want to see more of that. And then when it comes to influencer marketing, we tend to think that people who have a million followers and all that stuff matters. Most of them are buying their followers these days. Let's just keep it real. So let's use our clients and our customers for our influencers, right?
Mm,
And that's going to get you a higher ROI on influencer marketing dollars than you will ever have by buying someone who had a million followers. I guarantee you.
brilliant. And Jevon, if people are curious, want to find out more or connect with you, where would you recommend they head to?
Yeah, LinkedIn is my number one social platform. Just go on LinkedIn, search Jevon Wooden. That's JeVonWoden. You'll see a light bulb next to my name. Or you can go to brightmindconsultinggroup.com and reach out to me there.
Okay, we'll include links to that in the show notes. Jevon, thank you so much for doing this. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks so much, Vinay. It's been an honor.